The girl shook the bell in her hand and drew a symbol from the witch book on the ground. Sabrina wanted to summon a wild spirit, but the summoning spell did not call out a spirit. Instead, 3 witches appeared before her eyes. The witches surrounded her and began to chant. The next second, the girl had a nosebleed. Sabrina rushed home to tell her 2 aunts about this. Hilda took out an egg. When Hilda broke the egg, she discovered that the egg had turned red. It turned out that the witches had placed a blood curse on the girl. Now Sabrina had to take a salt bath and place 2 candles upside down on the ground. After 2 weeks, the curse could be lifted. Sabrina did as her aunt said. She was now bathing in the tub, but she found herself in the wild and saw her parents. When Sabrina chased after them, she saw only twins, but one of the babies was human, the other had a pair of claws. At this moment, she woke up from the bath with a start. It turned out that it was all just a dream. Sabrina's 16th birthday was coming up. Sabrina had to make a choice whether she would go to the wizarding world with her family or stay in the human world with her friends. Her 2 aunts, of course, wanted her to inherit her father's career and become a powerful witch before receiving the baptism of darkness. Sabrina needed to choose a guardian spirit. Zelda took out a notebook for Sabrina to choose. But with her unique personality since childhood, Sabrina wanted to summon the spirit herself this time. As a result, during the process of summoning the spirit, Sabrina met 3 witches from the Wizarding Academy. They felt disgusted with Sabrina's mixed-race status, so they quickly cursed her. Fortunately, with the help of her aunts, the curse on Sabrina was lifted. In the evening, when Sabrina returned to her room, a voice suddenly rang out from behind her. It turned out to be the spirit she had summoned for 3 days. Now it had transformed into a black cat to protect her. There were 3 days left until Sabrina received her baptism of darkness. At that time, Sabrina would become a real witch. But before that, Sabrina still had many questions about joining the Dark Dojo. She wanted to become a witch, but she did not want to give up everything in the human world. When Sabrina did not know what to choose, Ambrose gave her a piece of advice. Legend has it that deep in the forest, there was an ancient fruit tree. If one ate the forbidden fruit on the tree, one would see what would happen in the future. But Sabrina did not know that her conversation with Ambrose had been overheard by a crow. The crow later went to Sabrina's teacher's house and told her the whole conversation. At this time, Sabrina went to the orchard to find an ancient fruit tree, but suddenly, a straw man pulled Sabrina in. Sabrina was scared and ran everywhere. It turned out that the teacher was behind the scenes. She didn't want Sabrina to receive the forbidden fruit. When Sabrina was about to be caught up, a dark shadow appeared and knocked the straw man down. It turned out that it was Sabrina's guardian spirit who saved her. The teacher was also angry because the plan failed. In fact, Sabrina's teacher was no longer the old teacher. A few days ago, the real teacher was killed by a witch. That witch had transformed into the teacher's appearance. The witch was Satan's minion. Her purpose was also to make Sabrina submit to Satan. At this time, Sabrina had found the forbidden fruit. Sabrina took a bite of the apple. Then the apple in her hand immediately rotted and grew full of small creatures. This tree was full of dead bodies. A bull-headed monster grew out of the tree and walked towards Sabrina. Then Sabrina spat out the apple. This brought her back to reality. The scene just now had scared Sabrina. She decided not to receive the dark baptism anymore. But when she returned home, she found that her house had a guest. It turned out that the man was Postus of the Dark Church, the representative of the Dark Lord named Satan. This time, he came to answer Sabrina's questions. Postus told Sabrina that the prophecy of the forbidden fruit was not completely trustworthy. Sabrina signing a contract with Satan could bring more benefits. Sabrina's father was also a great wizard, so he certainly wanted her to become a witch. Later, she could freely choose whether to leave the church or not. At Postus's persuasion, Sabrina agreed to receive the dark baptism, but before that, she wanted to help her friend do something. Her friend at school had suffered torture for a long time, so Sabrina decided to use magic to punish those bullies. The girl was bullied by her male friends for a long time. Her friend reported this to the teacher, but the teacher did not care. So Sabrina, who was half witch, prepared to use witchcraft to help her best friend punish the bullies. Sabrina went to the 3 witches who had cast a curse on her. She wanted them to help her punish the 4 boys. The witches said they could help, but she had to promise not to go to the witch academy again. Sabrina agreed on the surface, but in fact, she raised her right hand behind her back in a counterattack gesture. That way, even if Sabrina broke her promise in the future, magic would not affect her. Sabrina and the others lured the 4 boys into the cave. Then the witches used magic to make the boys see a scene of blood and flesh splattered. Sabrina took out her camera to take pictures of their impressive scene and warned them not to torture their friends anymore. The witches were not satisfied. They revealed their true demon forms, causing the tormentors to scream. Soon, it was Sabrina's 16th birthday. Under the blood moon, Sabrina's white dress suddenly turned black. She entered the portal and saw everyone in the dark cathedral. Sabrina knelt before Postus. Postus Postus performed the ritual before the baptism according to the procedure. But as soon as Postus held out Sabrina's palm for her to sign the book of creatures, the prophetic scene from the forbidden fruit appeared in her mind again. Sabrina saw the silhouettes of her parents again. Sabrina faltered. Then, she ran away from the baptism ceremony. But Sabrina did not know that, because of her actions, she and her aunts were all accused by Satan before the witch court. The two aunts were deprived of their magic. Their bodies were aging rapidly. At this time, Ambrose told Sabrina that there was once a lawyer who was very knowledgeable about witch law. Legend has it that he once defeated the devil in court. So Sabrina went to see this lawyer. After talking, she learned that her father had helped the lawyer. This time, the lawyer also agreed to help her defend as a way to repay the favor in the witch court. Postus accused Sabrina of promising to sign a contract with Satan, but at the last minute she canceled the contract. At this time, the lawyer said that their accusations were completely unfounded. There was no concrete evidence to prove that Sabrina had canceled contract. At this time, Postus brought out the creature book. They were surprised to find that the creature book had Sabrina's signature on it. Sabrina's aunts later confirmed that the name on the book was personally signed by her father when she was 3 days old. This was a huge blow to Sabrina. This evidence was clearly unfavorable to Sabrina, but the lawyer did not give up. He told the judge that Sabrina was a hybrid of a human and a witch. The human blood in her had the right to be judged by human law. They were currently in dispute over Sabrina's identity. The way to prove whether Sabrina was a witch or not was to have her undress and check for the witch's mark on her in front of everyone. If she did not have the mark, they would withdraw the lawsuit. Sabrina was certain that she did not have the mark, they said. In order to help her two aunts regain her youth and power, Sabrina agreed to let everyone check. But in the end, Hilda could not accept it, so she revealed the secret she had kept hidden for 16 years. It turned out that on the second day after Sabrina's death, her mother took her to be baptized as a Catholic. The witness was Hilda. All of this proved that promise between Sabrina and Satan was not legally binding. Just as they were about to win the case, the gates of hell suddenly opened. The lawyer and Faustus entered to negotiate with Satan. In the final negotiation, Satan gave in. Sabrina could keep her human life, but on the condition that she had to go to the Witch Academy. This seemed to be the result that Sabrina wanted the most. Later, Sabrina's two aunts also recovered their powers, but in fact, Satan's temporary concession was also to put Sabrina under their control. When Sabrina went to the Magic Academy, she met the three witches from before. Just because Sabrina's mother was immortal, when she went to the Witch Academy, she had to endure the alienation of other witches. There was even a tradition in the academy that newcomers had to endure their torture. At midnight, they dragged Sabrina out, forced her to take off her coat, and stood in the cold night until dawn. No matter what sound she heard, she was not allowed to turn around. Soon, Sabrina heard her parents' voices behind her. Sabrina knew that they were all demons. Their purpose was to make her turn around. She persevered and finally got through the night. At this moment, a boy appeared behind her. Sabrina reminded him that it was dangerous here, so he should leave quickly. But the boy didn't pay attention. He also led Sabrina to a grave. It turned out that the boy had died a long time ago, but his soul still remained in the forest. There were many people like him around him. They all died in the witch's trial. When Sabrina learned about this, she quickly called Zelda for help. Zelda went to find the principal of the Witch Academy. She wanted him to stop the students' behavior, but the principal said that bullying had always been a tradition at this school. That way, the weak would be eliminated. Since the principal did not want to intervene, they had to solve the problem on their own. Seeing so many children die unjustly, Sabrina's aunts were heartbroken, so they decided to help these people take revenge. That night, the three witches came to Sabrina again. They used a rope to put around Sabrina's neck. Today, they would let her feel what it was like to be hanged. They asked Sabrina if she had any excuses. Sabrina said yes. She said that the academy's tradition of torturing would end tonight. At this time, the witches pulled the rope, but they found that Sabrina did not move at all. The dead souls gathered together. They bowed their heads and chanted a spell. The three witches suddenly floated in the air. Their necks seemed to be held by something. After torturing so many people, the three witches had encountered a tough opponent for the first time, so they had to compromise with Sabrina. The next day, the eldest of the three sisters went to the principal's office. It turned out that it was all the principal's orders. The principal was furious at their failure. The three of them were so miserable dealing with a new student, so the principal was going to give Sabrina a difficult challenge. This was a magic box that tested her will. As long as she solved it, Sabrina could learn the powerful summoning class that her father left behind. Sabrina was very confident that she could open it. Sure enough, when she opened her father's notes, she found a way to open it. When it was opened, the sand inside fell everywhere. At the same time, the lights started flashing. There was also a strange sound outside the door. Sabrina went to her aunt's room and told her everything that had just happened. It turned out that that Sabrina had just broken the seal and released the demon. The urgent thing is to seal the entire house and then find a chance to seal the devil. After the house is sealed, the devil also comes before them. At this time, Zelda comes out and holds a bottle and recites a spell. Then the devil is sealed in the bottle. They thought that this crisis was over, but in fact, they have fallen into the devil's trap. It is a sleeping devil that can control dreams. At this time, everyone in the room is in a dream. In the dream, Sabrina and her boyfriend Harvey walk into the wedding hall, but right when the ceremony is taking place, Harvey suddenly strangles her and locks her in a box full of spikes. At this time, the sleeping devil comes before Sabrina. He wants to trick her into saying the spell to seal the house. At the same time, Lilith transforms into Sabrina's teacher, and she also sees Sabrina's situation through the mirror. She is the one sent by Satan to monitor Sabrina. Of course, she cannot see Sabrina in trouble, so Lilith uses magic to enter Sabrina's dream. Lilith told Sabrina that it was all a dream. Later, Lilith would wake Sabrina up to wake her up and then quickly run away. Lilith took out a doll and then used a needle to prick the doll's palm. The next moment, Sabrina woke up from her dream. But Sabrina did not run away when she woke up. Sabrina had to find a way to save her family. So Sabrina imitated Lilith's method, put on a sleeping bag and hypnotized herself. She also entered her aunt's dreams. She learned how to defeat the sleeping demon from Hilda. Sabrina found Hilda's spider spirit. When Sabrina started knitting on her hands, the sleeping demon was also covered with spider webs. The sleeping demon was defeated. Then everyone woke up. After this, Sabrina began to doubt teacher's identity. So Sabrina went to the teacher and questioned her true identity. At this time, Lilith told Sabrina that she used to be Sabrina's father's subordinate. Lilith was also entrusted by Sabrina to protect Sabrina. But Sabrina still could not accept the feeling of being watched, so she asked Lilith to leave her life. But Sabrina did not know that the devil was about to appear again beside her. At this time, there was a young man who was drawing very attentively. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of him. It was not until his brother called him that he woke up. It was just Nicholas's hallucination. But Nicholas was not the only one who had hallucinations. In the evening, Rosaline went to the kitchen to get things, and she also saw this person. Another girl also had a similar situation. The three of them had hallucinations because of what happened a few days ago. The figure the three of them saw was Susie's uncle. Susie's uncle had shown unusual behavior not long before leaving the mine. Rosaline and Nicholas were good friends of Susie, so they went to Susie's house to visit. But when Nicholas had just sat down, Susie's uncle suddenly stood up and grabbed Nicholas's neck. In the critical moment, Susie took a water jug and hit Jesse and saved Nicholas. For everyone's safety, they tied Jesse's hands and feet tightly. From then on, the three of them often had hallucinations. Nicholas told this story to his girlfriend, Sabrina. Sabrina was studying at the witch school. After Sabrina heard it, she immediately knew that Jesse was possessed by a demon. Sabrina went home and told this story to her two aunts. But the witches had a rule that they were not allowed to interfere in the affairs of mortals. Sabrina said that they could not bear to see their friends in trouble. So Sabrina decided to go see the situation first. In order not to reveal her identity as a witch, she used astral projection and went to Susie's uncle's room. When the demon knew that Sabrina was a witch, it also became arrogant. It told Sabrina that its name was Ambrose, a demon from the inside. While talking, the demon suddenly. Fortunately, Sabrina was in a spirit state, so the poison went straight through. But not long after, Sabrina suddenly felt uncomfortable. Her real body also jerked painfully. Finally, Ambrose discovered it in time. Ambrose used magic to force Sabrina to wake up. It seemed that the devil's tricks were not simple. They even discovered that the name the devil told Sabrina was also fake. This was just a malicious joke of the devil. Ambrose read backwards, is ice cream. It seemed that if they wanted to find out clearly, they had to investigate from the beginning. So Nicholas and Sabrina entered the mine where Jesse worked. Sure enough, Sabrina discovered a damaged stone statue here through looking up books. They learned the origin of the devil. It turned out that the devil was a parasitic devil called Apophis. Sabrina asked the teacher in the witch academy how to exorcise, but the teacher told Sabrina that exorcism was something that only Christians could do. Witches are not allowed and have no ability to exorcise demons. But Sabrina still refused to give up. She even told her aunt that if there was really no other way, she could only go to the Catholic Church to ask for help. Witches go to ask for help from Catholics. This was unheard of. At this time, Lilith told Sabrina that she knew of a spell that could use a witch's power to exorcise demons. Then Sabrina went before the devil and began to chant. But Sabrina could only be considered half a witch now. With her current power, she could not exorcise the devil. In the end, Zelda was able to suppress the devil. With everyone's cooperation, they sealed Apophis back. Sabrina thought they had saved Susie's uncle, but the next day Susie told Sabrina that he had passed away last night. But in reality, the appearance of the devil and Sabrina's exorcism were all Lilith's tricks. Last night, after they exorcised the demon, she killed Susie's uncle. It seemed that all of this was part of Satan's plan. Every year, the witches draw lots here. The person chosen by Satan would become the head witch. But being the head witch was not a good thing. The head witch would sacrifice her body in the festival of All Saints for everyone to enjoy. This was a long-standing tradition of the Dark Church. This was also to commemorate the sacrifices of her ancestors. This year, Sabrina's family was chosen to draw lots. This was also the first time Sabrina knew that the witch world had this kind of festival. Although she felt that this festival was very confusing, this could not be changed. This year, Zelda represented her family to draw lots. Seeing Sabrina's worried appearance, Zelda comforted her by saying that their family had participated in the drawing lots several times before. The probability of being chosen among the 14 people was still quite small. Sabrina knew that no matter how much she advised, she could not change Zelda's mind. So she wanted to use practical actions to stop it. Just as the witches were drawing lots, Sabrina suddenly barged in. In front of all the witches, she announced that she would represent their family in the drawing. Sabrina originally thought that Zelda would object to this tradition because of her, but Sabrina's actions left Zelda a little unprepared. Could it be that Sabrina wanted to object to the entire witch meeting? The ants had no choice but to let Sabrina participate in their place. After everyone had drawn a paper, the witches all lit the paper in their hands on Photo's command. At this time, the paper in Sabrina's hand did not burn. Sabrina originally thought that she had been chosen, but suddenly the witch beside her became extremely agitated. It turns out that the one who was actually chosen as the head witch was Prudence. Sabrina drew a servant's paper. Prudence would enjoy the highest glory during these days. Sabrina had to fulfill all of Prudence's requests before the festival began. That night, Prudence went to Sabrina's house. Sabrina originally wanted to advise Prudence to run away, but the witch tradition was deeply ingrained in Prudence's mind. She even felt that being chosen was an honor, so Sabrina went to Lilith. Sabrina wanted Lilith to help her persuade Prudence. Lilith led them into the forest. There was an old witch living there. Many years ago, Hyket was chosen as the head witch, but she eventually ran away. Sabrina asked Hyket why she was avoiding Satan. Hyket told Sabrina that she was not avoiding Satan, but the great wizard of that year. At first, Hyket was very happy when she was chosen as the head witch, but the day before the festival, the Hyket's grand mage said that she had received orders from Satan. Then she wanted to violate Hyket. That's why Hyket escaped from the Dark Church. Sabrina wanted to let Prudence know through this that becoming the head witch was not Satan's will. It was very likely that Postus wanted Prudence to become the queen, but Prudence always believed that Postus, who treated her like a daughter, would not harm her. At this time, Sabrina gave up on advising Prudence. But that night, when Sabrina returned home, everything changed. Sabrina discovered that Postus's wife went to Zelda for a pregnancy checkup. Lady was so worried about the fetus in her womb that she said strange things that the three witch sisters were plotting to harm her child. So Lady decided to eliminate one of them first. Lady's words made Sabrina suspicious. Sabrina guessed that Prudence might be Postus's biological daughter, and Prudence being chosen as the head witch was not God's will either. Maybe Lady wanted to take this opportunity to eliminate Prudence to prove her guess. That night, Sabrina used magic in the cake. Whoever ate the cake had to tell the truth. At this time, Sabrina asked her question. Everything was clear. Just as Sabrina guessed, Prudence was indeed Postus's biological daughter. Lady used a spell during the drawing, so Prudence was chosen as the head witch. Prudence asked if Postus was her father. Postus also admitted without hesitation. Sabrina asked if Postus had killed Prudence's mother. He also admitted that he had indirectly killed Prudence's mother because he did not want to marry her. The witches asked if they were also Postus's daughters, but he said they were orphans. Now everything was in complete chaos. Prudence could no longer be sacrificed voluntarily. To comfort the witches, Postus said that he had received orders from Satan. This year's festival was cancelled, but one witch did not accept that, so she burned herself on the spot and sacrificed herself. The witches, who had been waiting for a long time, began to feast and eat to their heart's content. The festival ended. Sabrina thought she could return to a peaceful life, but trouble kept coming. The angry sister with the hammer rushed into the vegetable garden and killed her sister without hesitation. Then she buried Hilda in the garden. At night, Hilda came back to life. Apparently, this was not the first time Hilda had been beaten. Every time Hilda did something wrong, her sister killed her again. Sabrina asked Hilda how it felt when she died and if it hurt. Hilda replied that it depended on the weapon Zelda used. As for Hilda's resurrection, it was not because of magic, but because in their vegetable garden there was a piece of soil taken from Ken's garden. But only witches can be resurrected through this land. Sabrina is now talking about death. Two of the three witch sisters are preparing to use magic to kill Harvey. They chanted a spell to make the witch hunter suffer whipping and stoning. The town's mine collapsed. Nicholas and his brother are in the mine now. Nicholas escaped, but his brother Tommy was not so lucky. The rescue rescue team only found Tommy's helmet. The loss of his brother was a huge shock to Nicholas. Nicholas even thought that he had killed his brother. Sabrina did not want to see Nicholas so broken, so she wanted to use magic to resurrect Tommy. Sabrina knew that her aunts would definitely not agree to her using magic to resurrect mortals, so Sabrina went to Lilith for help. Lilith did have a resurrection spell, but this magic was against nature. The price to pay was also extremely high. The spell would only work if it was 1-for-1. After hearing this, Sabrina gave up on reviving Tommy, but the next day things changed. Sabrina's friend had recently acquired psychic powers. At Tommy's funeral, when Rosalind touched the helmet, a vision suddenly appeared in her mind. Two girls in dresses appeared in front of Rosalind. They were continuously hitting the doll with rocks. As a witch, Sabrina immediately knew that they were two of the three witch sisters. Sabrina suddenly realized that Tommy's death was not an accident, but was due to their use of magic. Sabrina went to their eldest sister, Prudence, and told her about this. Sabrina had saved Prudence the last time, so she owed Sabrina a favor. Sabrina prepared a complete plan that could both punish the two witches and resurrect Tommy. At midnight, they went to the forest to prepare for the ritual and cast the spell. Then Sabrina strangled one of the witches. But in fact, Sabrina did not really want to kill her. Sabrina intended to bury this person in her garden. Sabrina wanted to use this method because it did not require sacrificing anyone to revive Tommy. At this time, Ambrose discovered Sabrina. He thought that her reckless method would only bring more trouble, but Sabrina completely ignored her advice and thought that her plan was perfect. Another 13 hours and Tommy would revive. But after a whole day, Tommy still had not revived. Sabrina thought that the magic had failed. But when Sabrina went to find Nicholas, she discovered that Tommy had just returned home. Tommy had indeed revived, but he was completely different from before. He did not say a word, not even a thought. He was like a wanderer. At the same time, something happened at the Witch Academy. The witch who was revived by the earth was very weak and kept vomiting dirt. The situation was getting worse. Sabrina's two aunts also knew about this. Zelda was angry and said she would take Tommy back to where he belonged, but Sabrina stubbornly refused to give up. Sabrina knew that Tommy's soul was still in the border of hell, so Sabrina would go and get Tommy's soul. Zelda said that Sabrina was not capable of using the magic needed to cross the border. Sabrina was just a 16-year-old girl, not a great mage. Sabrina was angry and said that Zelda was not her mother, so Zelda pretended to be Sabrina's mother and taught her. Hilda angrily told Sabrina not to be rude to Zelda. Zelda was deeply hurt by Sabrina's words. Zelda decided not to interfere anymore and let Sabrina do it herself. At this point, Sabrina still didn't realize her problem. Sabrina went to Lilith to ask Lilith to help her get to the border of hell. They reached the entrance to the border. Sabrina chanted a spell to open the gate. Stepping inside, what caught her eye was a forest shrouded in smoke. While searching for Tommy's soul, Sabrina suddenly saw her mother's soul. Sabrina didn't have time to ask a question before the soul-sucking demon appeared. While Lilith was running away from the soul-sucking demon, she found Tommy's soul. But as soon as Sabrina took Tommy's soul out, Tommy's soul was captured by the soul-sucking demon. His soul completely disappeared. This meant that Tommy could never be resurrected. In the end, Sabrina had no choice but to confess her witch identity to Nicholas. Sabrina told him everything about how she revived Tommy. Now Sabrina had to bring Tommy back. This was equivalent to letting Nicholas feel the pain of losing his brother again. Sabrina told Nicholas to let Tommy rest in peace. That was why Sabrina wanted everything to go back to normal. In the end, Nicholas decided to do it himself. Nicholas took the gun and pointed it at Sabrina. Following the gunshot, the relationship between Sabrina and Nicholas also cracked. But Sabrina did not know that Satan had set trap after trap to make her sign the monster book. The girl asked the boy to come to the small forest at midnight, but at the crucial moment, the girl hesitated a bit. At this moment, the girl's expression suddenly changed. When she turned around, her face turned into Lilith. The boy was extremely panicked. The next second, Lilith grabbed his hair and ended his life with one blow. At the same time, 13 figures suddenly appeared around her. It turned out that they were all witches. Many years ago, they were killed by humans. The witches at that time could have united to save them, but the Dark Church chose to stand by and do nothing. This time, Lilith summoned the souls of these 13 witches by sacrificing living people. Within 24 hours, they could travel around the world to seek revenge. Their resentment was extremely deep. Regardless of whether they were mortals or witches, they were all their targets for revenge. The 13 witches gathered and summoned the powerful angel of death. Ambrose discovered the witches gathering. Just as he went forward to check, a witch suddenly appeared and strangled him and told him to go back and warn everyone in the Dark Church. Ambrose reported this incident to the witches in the Dark Church. After hearing the news, everyone was in chaos. Postus finally summoned all the witches to gather in the Dark Church to face the upcoming crisis together. But Sabrina had no intention of hiding in the Dark Church. She wanted to protect her friends. What surprised Sabrina Sabrina was that Zelda agreed to stay and protect the mortals in town this time. The urgent thing was that they had to gather everyone in town. At this time, Hilda thought of a way. They could use magic to summon leopards. That way, everyone in town would go to the designated shelter to avoid the disaster. Then, they took out a basin of water and began to chant a spell to summon the wind gods everywhere. As the siren sounded, everyone in town went to the shelter. At this time, 13 witches had also arrived at the door. Sabrina and the three of them had also placed a protective charm on the hiding place. As long as they kept their spirits up, they would most likely be able to block the witch's attack. But at this moment, Postus summoned and teleported Zelda in front of him. It turned out that Postus's wife was about to give birth, so he needed her to help his wife. Without Zelda's strength, they could only barely resist. But at this moment, Ambrose suddenly disappeared. Ambrose's best friend was very worried about his safety, so he also summoned Ambrose. Only Sabrina and Hilda were left in the hiding place. They had absolutely no way to resist the witch's attack. Just as Sabrina was about to give up, Lilith appeared. Lilith told Sabrina that there was only one last way to save everyone, so they left Hilda alone there. Lilith took Sabrina to the place where the black baptism ceremony was held. Now, to save the whole town, the only way was for Sabrina to sign the monster book. Only then can Sabrina become a real witch, and she can also use the power in her body to defeat the 13 witches. In order to protect her family and friends, Sabrina finally compromised. At this time, Satan appeared behind Sabrina. Sabrina cut her palm and signed. Suddenly a strong light flashed. Sabrina's body also changed. Then Lilith took Sabrina to the tree where the 13 witches were summoned. Sabrina ordered the 13 witches to stop and leave silently. Otherwise, don't blame Sabrina for being angry, but the witches did not accept. Finally, Sabrina summoned hellfire. The 10 witches and the tree were all on fire. When their souls were burned, the town finally returned to peace. Nicholas knew that Sabrina had saved everyone, and he had also overcome the pain of losing his brother. So Nicholas wanted to make up with Sabrina, but Sabrina refused this time. Sabrina knew that everything had changed since she signed the monster book. Perhaps it was safest for her to keep her distance from humans. Sabrina also devoted herself to the Witch Academy, but that was just the beginning for her. A man was writing documents in the room. At this moment, Ambrose suddenly discovered that there was someone looking at him in the mirror, but when he turned back, the body on the bed did not move. Ambrose thought that he was too tired and saw wrongly, but when he picked up the mirror again, the woman suddenly stood up. Ambrose also realized that something was wrong. He pretended to turn back. Sure enough, the woman appeared behind him again. Fortunately, Ambrose reacted quickly. He used magic to knock her down. It seemed that there was something unclean in their house. At this moment, all the cabinet doors moved. At this moment, Hilda also encountered something strange. The rolling pin she had just used suddenly disappeared. Even the cleaver was nowhere to be seen. When Hilda looked up, all the tools fell from the sky. The sewing machine suddenly started working by itself. When Zelda went to check, the sewing machine had typed out the words, "Your baby is with us." When Zelda returned, she found that the baby in the crib had disappeared. The whole family went looking for it. They finally found the baby in the oven. When Ambrose came up from the basement and told them what had happened, everyone understood that there was a little devil in the house. This kind of devil who loved to play games was very difficult to get rid of. Only the forest witch who lived in the mountains could take them away. But this witch had one bad point. She always adopted orphans as her children. So Zelda told Sabrina to take the baby and hide in the basement. The forest witch heard their calls, so she entered the house. Zelda offered a generous reward. The forest witch also agreed to take the demon away. But when the witch was about to leave, the baby in the basement cried again. The witch suddenly became excited and told everyone that she wanted to take the baby away. At this time, the spirit of Sabrina's mother suddenly appeared. She said that she would use fair competition to decide the ownership of the baby. She drew a circle on the ground and placed the baby in the middle. Zelda and the witch each held one of the baby's hands. Whoever pulled the baby out of the line would have the baby. In the end, Zelda did not want the baby to suffer, so she let go. So the baby belonged to the forest witch. But when the witch brought the baby back, the baby in her arms turned into a teddy bear. It turned out that when the baby cried, Sabrina's mother appeared and taught her to use magic to swap the baby. At this time, Sabrina's friend Rosalind suddenly brought bad news. While Susie was working part-time, he was captured by the boss who pretended to be Santa Claus. In fact, the boss was a demon. He liked to kidnap children and turn them into zombie statues. Hearing this, Zelda suddenly thought of a way. They didn't need to do it themselves. The forest witch was very obsessed with children. She would not show mercy to those who harmed children, so they told the forest witch this news. The forest witch went to save Susie. For children with relatives like Susie, the witch would not take them away, so she told Susie to leave. After that, the demon suffered the witch's crazy revenge. After this incident, Zelda also understood that the child was not safe with them, so Zelda decided to let someone else raise her. This This child was originally the daughter of Postus in the Dark Church. His wife had died after giving birth to twins. Postus was very male-dominated. If Postus knew that his daughter was born first, he definitely wouldn't have kept her. So Zelda secretly brought the baby back. Sabrina had seen her mother's spirit in the border of hell before, so she used a spirit summoning spell to temporarily summon her mother's spirit. What Sabrina wanted to know was why her mother was wandering in the border of hell. Did her mother have something unsolved? But the truth was that her mother was just worried that she wouldn't receive love and protection, so her mother didn't want to leave. Now her mother saw that her two aunts were taking good care of her, so her mother had nothing to worry about anymore. Sabrina's mother finally left, but Sabrina didn't know that 3 more demons were about to come to her side. As a witch, Sabrina's daily worry was choosing clothes. Sabrina found that the fresh school style was not good. The elegant and simple style also seemed to be not good. The glamorous fashion seemed to be okay. The classic and minimalist style was okay. Black really suited the witch's temperament. Even the black cat beside her felt the same way. Today was a special day for Sabrina. She had taken a leave of absence from school to become a student of the Witch Academy. But what Sabrina did not expect was that on the first day of the new semester, her troubles continued to happen. When she went to the library alone to study, a devil suddenly appeared. The devil bent down and released a swarm of small mice. Fortunately, Sabrina found the spell to expel the devil on the bookshelf next to her. Sabrina did not pay attention at first, but on the way back, another devil appeared behind her. The devil released countless mice that fell from inside her shirt. Sabrina panicked and ran away and hid under a rock. She took out her magic flute. This sound is also the nemesis of the fallen. The fallen demons can only temporarily retreat. Things are getting more and more strange. Sabrina thinks that maybe the people at the Witch Academy don't want her to stay at the academy, so they summon demons to attack her. So the next day, Sabrina temporarily doesn't go to the Witch Academy, but returns to the high school she used to attend. But things aren't over yet. A demon appears behind Sabrina and ties her up. When Sabrina wakes up, she only sees the demon surrounded by flies. The purpose of the fly demon is the same as the 2 previous demons. They want to destroy the witch Sabrina. At this time, Lilith appears in time. With just a wave of her hand, the fly demon disappears. To clarify everything, Sabrina goes to find Nicholas at the Witch Academy. Through searching the books, they discovered that the 3 demons that attacked Sabrina were the 3 plague kings of the underworld. This kind of demons could not be summoned by ordinary people. Even the 2 of them could not do it alone. In order to clarify who wanted to kill Sabrina, Sabrina and Nicholas worked together and summoned the 3 plague kings. Sabrina asked who ordered them to kill her. The 3 demons told Sabrina that they were not under anyone's command. They only wanted to kill the illegitimate child. They said that a mixed blood witch could not ascend to the throne. At this time, Postus suddenly stopped them. Postus expelled all 3 demons. In the end, Sabrina and the others still could not find the answer they wanted. But not only did Sabrina feel suspicious, Lilith also heard what Plague King said. Lilith began to doubt Satan's plan, so Lilith summoned Satan. Satan told Lilith that the gates of hell would open. Sabrina would become his messenger. Satan's words made Lilith a little jealous. Lilith thought that Sabrina's nature belonged to the light, so she could not take on such an important position. So Satan and Lilith made a challenge. If Satan could unearth Sabrina's dark side, Lilith would no longer doubt him. On the contrary, if Sabrina remained steadfast in her good nature, Lilith would become Satan's queen. So that night, Satan appeared before Sabrina's bed and told her that it was time for her to devote herself to the darkness. But what Sabrina did not expect was that all Satan asked her to do was go to the store to steal a box of chewing gum. But when Sabrina went to the store to get the chewing gum, she was caught by Lilith. Sabrina felt guilty, so she put down the chewing gum and hurriedly left. Sabrina never completed Satan's mission, until one day she suddenly discovered a claw mark on her shoulder, so Sabrina went to beg Lilith. The appearance of this claw mark showed that Sabrina was resisting Satan. Satan asking Sabrina to steal the gum was not a small matter. Don't underestimate its influence because of a small evil. A small action will make her succumb to evil. This is also a battle of wills. Only when Sabrina maintains her righteous thoughts will she not be changed by Satan. But things are not that simple. Sabrina discovered that her resistance not only affected herself, but also her family and friends around her, who were all experiencing consecutive misfortunes. Until that night, when Sabrina returned home, she suddenly discovered that her guardian spirit had become weak. Sabrina could not bear it anymore. Sabrina asked Satan why she harmed the people around her. Satan asked Sabrina why she resisted his order to steal the gum. Sabrina said she would go steal, but Satan said it was too late. Now he wanted her to do something bigger. He wanted her to burn down her school. The time for talking was over. Satan told Sabrina to go burn down Baxter High School. Otherwise, next time Satan would ask Sabrina to sacrifice herself for something bigger. Sabrina finally gave in. Sabrina took the gasoline and went to the school. As soon as Sabrina lit lit the fire, Satan stopped her again. It turned out that Satan's goal had been achieved. He only needed her to prove her attitude. The claw marks on Sabrina's body disappeared and her soul was restored. Satan also won the bet, but Lilith had no intention of giving up so easily. At this time, Sabrina celebrated her first Witch Valentine's Day at the Witch Academy. Unlike ordinary people's Valentine's Day, they would celebrate for 3 days. On the first day, all the witches gathered. The male witches sat and the female witches danced to the music. When the music ended, the female witch would sit on the male witch closest to her. Sabrina had gone to where Nicholas was waiting, but at the moment the music ended, the third of the 3 witches suddenly pushed Sabrina down and sat on Nicholas. Sabrina slowly stood up and walked towards the last witch. At this moment, the witch turned around. The person who had paired with Sabrina was Nicholas. At this moment, the person who pushed Sabrina down realized that the person she had chosen was another witch. It turned out that Nicholas had predicted that she would hinder him and Sabrina, so he bribed a witch to disguise him. On the second day, the couples went deep into the forest. According to tradition, they had to take off their clothes and rub holy oil on their bodies. Then they lay under the sacred moonlight to absorb the energy of the moon goddess. During this time, they had to control their emotions and not do anything beyond their limits. While Sabrina and Nicholas were chatting happily, a wolf's cry startled them both. Nicholas was very nervous. He pulled her out of the forest so as not to miss the opportunity of Valentine's Day. Sabrina and Nicholas went to the human party. During the dance, the atmosphere between the two became increasingly intimate. After the party, they went to the library to prepare for the next step. Suddenly, a pair of wolf eyes were staring at them from behind the bookcase. Both of them also saw the werewolf coming out, so they hurriedly ran out. Nicholas chanted a spell and sealed the library door. It turned out that the werewolf was Nicholas's guardian spirit. Since Nicholas was born, the werewolf had always been by his side. After Nicholas's relatives passed away, the werewolf became his only relative. As Nicholas grew older and began to have a date, the werewolf became jealous. Its jealousy was terrifying. It did not allow anyone to approach Nicholas in any way. In the end, Nicholas banished it to another continent. Nicholas did not know how it could come back. Lilith told Nicholas that the same thing had happened before in the dark church. The possession of the spirits was very strong. They would harm everyone around their master. To protect Sabrina's safety, the only way was to kill the werewolf. Nicholas also knew that if he really wanted to be with Sabrina, this was the only way. So he brought his weapon and went to the werewolf's cave alone. Not long after, Nicholas returned with a bloody axe and a sad face. He was holding a heart in his hand. Sabrina was also touched by Nicholas's sacrifice. They made a date on the last night of Valentine's Day to be together. The last night of Valentine's Day is very special. The female witches play the role of Little Red Riding Hood. The male witches play the role of the wolf. But the hunt is reversed. Little Red Riding Hood hunts the wolf. Tonight, everyone can freely release their desires. When the hunt is announced, the Little Red Riding Hoods all rush towards the wolf they love. Meanwhile, Sabrina goes to the meeting place with Nicholas. But what Sabrina didn't expect was that Nicholas's spirit was a werewolf walking step by step towards her. The werewolf didn't listen to anything Sabrina said. At this time, Nicholas appeared and begged the werewolf not to harm Sabrina because she was the one he loved. Hearing this, the werewolf completely collapsed. The werewolf rushed straight towards Nicholas. When Sabrina saw this scene, she pulled out her sword and stabbed the werewolf in the back. Not long after, the werewolf stopped breathing. Nicholas lost his soul, so he was very heartbroken. He still couldn't bring himself to kill his only relative. The day before, Nicholas had only tied him up in the cave. Only with Sabrina's comfort did Nicholas gradually calm down. After Valentine's Day, Sabrina and Nicholas's feelings gradually stabilized. But then, Sabrina suddenly discovered that her parents' deaths were related to Postus. She turned around and was surprised to see her father's ghost appear in the attic. She rushed to her father's side. Her father told her that her father and mother's deaths were not accidents, but were caused by Postus of the church. He also told her to complete her mission and disappear. Sabrina went home and told Zelda about this, but Zelda thought it was Sabrina's lie to prevent her wedding. Right on the witch's Valentine's Day, Postus and Zelda had developed feelings for each other, so they decided to get married a few days later. In fact, Zelda married Postus not for love, but to strengthen the family. So Zelda would not cancel the wedding because of a few words from Sabrina. Therefore, Sabrina sought Lilith for help. Lilith told Sabrina the location of her father's plane crash. Sabrina only needed to find her father's declaration and deliver it to the Pope, and she could fulfill her father's wish. Sabrina and Nicholas used witchcraft to find her father's declaration in the sea, where he had an accident. They looked at the documents inside and discovered that the teachings and reforms of the dark church that her father wrote were completely opposite to Postus's. Postus wanted to reform the dark church into an era of male chauvinism. Postus also invited the Pope to this wedding. Just as Postus delivered his declaration to the Pope, Sabrina suddenly broke down the door and barged in. She She also delivered her father's statement to the Pope. The Pope had previously valued Sabrina's father very much. He also told the two that he would go back to his room to carefully consider two proposals. Sabrina's appearance disrupted Postus's plan. It even posed a greater threat to Postus. In order for the Pope not to choose Sabrina's father's proposal, Postus adopted an emergency plan. At this time, Ambrose, the person in charge of protecting the Pope's safety, made a strange noise in his stomach. His expression also changed. Then a scream broke the silence of the night. Everyone went to the Pope's room. They found that 3 bodyguards had murdered the Pope. Postus wanted to kill someone at this time, but fortunately, Ambrose quickly used teleportation magic to escape. At this time, Ambrose was at the bar. His stomach was churning uncontrollably, and he vomited. He vomited a rat. And this rat was the soul that Postus gave to Ambrose. This also shows that Ambrose was controlled by Postus. At this time, even though the Pope died, Postus still decided to hold the wedding as planned. To prevent all this, Sabrina and Nicholas disguised themselves as their deceased parents. In front of all the witches, they accused Postus of setting everything up to harm them, but this method did not fool Postus at all. With just one spell, they returned to their original form. At this time, Ambrose suddenly appeared behind Postus to assassinate him, but Ambrose was controlled by the eldest sister of the 3 witches. Therefore, Ambrose was captured and imprisoned in a dark underground prison. Sabrina and Nicholas were also expelled from the Witch Academy. Meanwhile, Zelda and Postus went on their honeymoon in Rome. Sabrina wanted to secretly save Ambrose, but because she was expelled, she could not open the academy. At the same time, 3 witch hunters arrived in town. One of the witch hunters targeted Sabrina. Taking advantage of the time when Sabrina was home alone, he knocked on her door and claimed to be a missionary. Just as the witch hunter was about to take action, the phone suddenly rang. It turned out to be Sabrina's friend with supernatural powers. At that time, when Rosalind touched Sabrina's belongings, an image of Sabrina being killed suddenly appeared in her mind, so Rosalind hurriedly called Sabrina. Upon hearing this news, Sabrina turned around and indeed saw that the witch hunter had drawn a dagger. Sabrina panicked and ran out of the house and used witch magic to lock the main door. When the hunter broke the door and rushed out, Sabrina had already cycled away. Sabrina went to find Hilda for help, but Hilda had just been attacked by the witch hunter. They wanted to quickly notify the people from the witch academy, but they had all been expelled and could not enter the academy. At this time, the witch hunter had found a way to open the academy door. At the witch academy, the 3 witch sisters and everyone were casting a spell to force Ambrose. They wanted him to sign a confession. The pressure was so strong that Ambrose could barely hold on. At the last moment, he used chicken bones to create a master key and escape from prison. But as soon as he reached the academy gate, he encountered witch hunters opening the academy gate. The 3 witch sisters thought they were very powerful, so they used witchcraft to suppress the witch hunters. But they did not know that these 2 witch hunters also had special powers. After the hunters cast the spell, everyone in the witch academy was tied up. The hunters asked the witches to change their beliefs and believe that God was the true savior. But betraying the power in the body is not easy. Just as the witch hunters were about to kill them all, Sabrina rushed in. The bows and arrows in the hunters' hands kept shooting at Sabrina. Sabrina also fell. Just as the hunters started killing people to their heart's content, Sabrina behind them suddenly came back to life. Sabrina was like a demon. The witch hunters had no resistance at all. Sabrina's power was unimaginable. Just a simple sentence from her revived the dead. The crisis of the Dark Church was considered over. But when Postus returned, he learned that the Witch Committee had also restored her and Nicholas's student status because Sabrina had saved the entire Witch Academy. But her brother could not be forgiven and would be executed. Sabrina told the Witch Committee that all of Ambrose's actions were controlled by the soul given by Postus. In the end, the Witch Committee asked Sabrina to find the soul within 24 hours so they could exonerate Ambrose. They found the spirit's residence. Sabrina used her powers again and revived the dead mouse. They brought the mouse home to prepare as evidence for the court tomorrow, but what they didn't expect was that Sabrina's aunt had completely changed after the honeymoon. Zelda was also controlled by Postus's witchcraft. At this time, Postus also knew Sabrina's plan. So Postus ordered Zelda to go home and find the mouse and use the meat grinder to grind it into minced meat. Only then did they realize that Zelda had been affected by Postus's witchcraft. Finally, Sabrina used her telekinetic powers to retrieve the music box that was controlling Zelda. Only then did Zelda regain consciousness. Finally, they knew Postus's plan. Postus knew that Sabrina had special powers. As long as Sabrina showed her new magical powers at the execution tomorrow, they would consider her a heretic and burn her alive. Fortunately, Sabrina knew Postus's plan in advance, so Sabrina also had a way to deal with it. The man was brought up. Postus ordered the soldiers to execute him. The blade fell with a sound, but the man's head did not fall. On the contrary, the person holding the blade next to the head was severed from his neck. Postus thought that this must be Sabrina's doing, but they had been watching Sabrina from the beginning and they saw that she did not take any action. It turned out that Hilda used witchcraft to transfer the damage to the person holding the blade. At this time, Postus asked another student to do it. Sabrina said that Postus wanted Ambrose to die so much, so why didn't he do it himself? Postus was provoked by a child. Postus did it himself out of pride, but after thinking for a while, Postus came up with a better idea. Postus ordered Sabrina to execute Ambrose. At this crucial moment, Satan suddenly appeared and spared Ambrose. Because Satan had ordered it, Ambrose was finally saved, but they did not know that Satan's appearance was actually due to Sabrina's supernatural powers. Although Postus was dissatisfied because his behavior angered Satan, the witch council also decided to remove Postus from the papacy. Ambrose's crisis was finally over, but Sabrina still wanted to fulfill her father's will. She wanted to connect the witch world and the human world. So she held a party and prepared to show off the witch's special powers in front of everyone. This could have been a major reform, but at this time, the incident happened again. Nicholas and Susie discovered a prophecy about Sabrina in the mine. Everyone went down the mine and were surprised to see Sabrina's painting on the wall. The appearance in the painting is exactly the same as the day Sabrina was resurrected. Through the painting, Sabrina looks like the messenger of hell. Sabrina goes to Lilith for help again. Lilith tells Sabrina that this painting shows that she will open the gates of hell and plunge the world into the apocalypse. If Sabrina wants to prevent the prophecy from happening, the only way is to make her lose her witchcraft. Perhaps that way she can avoid everything. So Sabrina goes to Ambrose. She wants him to use witchcraft to create a clone of her. That way, the dark energy on Sabrina's body will be transferred. As long as she destroys Sabrina's clone, she will not bring about the apocalypse. Finally, under Sabrina's insistence, Ambrose uses witchcraft to create a clone for Sabrina. The next day, Sabrina wakes up, but she finds that the tree next to her has not changed. They think the magic has failed, so they go out to find another way. But in fact, the spell worked. It was just that Sabrina's clone woke up earlier and put a new tree stump on the bed. Sabrina's clone wore Sabrina's clothes. But when they went out, Sabrina's clone went to Nicholas. She wanted to start over with him, but Nicholas was already with Rosalind, so he flatly refused. At this moment, her expression changed. Then Sabrina's clone went to Rosalind again. She wanted to get the support of her friends, but Rosalind also discovered something unusual about Sabrina. As soon as Rosalind touched Sabrina, she saw the truth through her psychic ability. She knew that this was not the real Sabrina. Then Sabrina's clone went to Susie. Susie also couldn't understand why Sabrina changed so suddenly, so Sabrina rolled her eyes again. It turned out that Sabrina's clone wanted to understand her friends so much that she went to them, but everything made her so disappointed. So Sabrina's clone used the clone creation method to create 3 friends, but she didn't expect that Susie would wake up early in the process. Susie saw that Nicholas's clone was about to succeed, so she grabbed a rock and knocked Nicholas's clone unconscious. Then Susie lifted a larger rock and smashed Nicholas's clone to death. Then Susie destroyed the remaining 2 trees. Only then did Nicholas and Rosalind wake up. At this time, Sabrina's clone also arrived and saw the devastation. She screamed in pain. At this time, Nicholas had a big discovery. When searching for documents related to the prophecy, he found a prophecy book. The prophecy about hell written on it said that the girl who opened the gates of hell would perform an exorcism ritual and use resurrection magic to enter the border of hell. Only then did Sabrina remember that she had done all of this. All of it was done under the guidance of Lilith. So Sabrina and Nicholas went to Lilith. Sabrina asked Nicholas to use magic to temporarily seal Lilith. Sabrina went to find her clone. At this time, Sabrina's clone was at home in extreme pain when she saw her friends dead. Ambrose also went to comfort her. At this time, Ambrose also realized something unusual. At this time, the real Sabrina had returned. The original and the clone met, but the clone did not show any fear because all of Sabrina's magic had been transferred to her. Ambrose also knew that without magic, Sabrina could not win against her clone, so he thought of a way. Ambrose told Sabrina's clone that to be fair, the 2 of them should have a gunfight. The 2 of them walked back to back for 10 steps. Whoever was faster would survive. So they made an appointment to fight at midnight, but Ambrose had a reason for this. Sabrina's clone had just arrived in the human world, so she only inherited Sabrina's memories and didn't know what evil people's hearts were. Soon it was time for the duel. The 2 of them were also walking back to back, but just as Ambrose counted to 8, Sabrina suddenly turned around and shot at her clone. Her clone was dead. Sabrina thought she had prevented a disaster, but Sabrina didn't expect that she had shot herself to death. That was also the final step to fulfill the prophecy. The prophecy had come true. Satan was about to return to the mortal world in human form. Sabrina would become Satan's wife. At this time, Lilith finally realized that Satan had always lied to her. Satan would never let her be his queen. So Lilith decided to help everyone defeat Satan. Then she ruled hell herself. To defeat Satan, they had to find his weakness weakness. The person who had been with Satan the longest was Lilith. Lilith had been running away from famine a long time ago. It was also at this time that Lilith met Lucifer, who was banished to the mortal world. There were 2 wounds on his back. Lilith healed Lucifer's wounds and became his first woman. But not long after, Lucifer's curse was lifted. As time passed, Lucifer turned into a monster and became Satan. Just as they were discussing, Satan came to the mortal world in human form. Sabrina went with Lilith to meet Satan. Satan told Sabrina that she was his destined queen of hell. She would open the gates of hell for him. He even revealed shocking news that she was not the daughter of a witch. Satan was Sabrina's biological father. In the past, Sabrina's parents prayed to Satan because they could not have children. Satan also took this opportunity to find a way to return to the mortal world himself. Sabrina did not accept such a fate. She also did not want to be Satan's child. Everyone's resistance made Lilith see hope. Satan's weakness was the wound on his back where his angel wings were damaged. Sabrina went to the place she had agreed to meet with Satan. She pretended to submit to him, but when he was off guard, she used a weapon to immobilize him. Then Ambrose and Sabrina's aunts rushed in. Although they injured Satan, the weapons they used were too ordinary to kill him. Satan used the lives of Sabrina's aunts to threaten her. He forced her to blow the horn to open the gates of hell. The horn sounded, and the gates of hell were about to open. Fortunately, Sabrina's friends used a spell to temporarily seal the gates of hell. At this time, Postus knew that Sabrina was about to become Satan's queen. Postus did not want to bow to Sabrina, so he decided to escape. But before Postus left, he gave everyone in the witch church poison. Everyone was dying. Prudence had no way back, so she could only ask Sabrina's family for help. With the help of Sabrina's aunts, the witches of the witch church could survive. But their danger was not over yet. Satan's coronation was tomorrow. Sabrina suddenly remembered what her father had created in the past. It could seal all the demons. This also gave them hope again. As long as everyone worked together, they would definitely be able to seal Satan. Soon it was time for the coronation. The next day, Sabrina appeared in gorgeous clothes and received the crown that Satan put on her head. As soon as Sabrina and Satan danced, the surrounding witches chanted. At this moment, Ambrose threw out what Sabrina's father had created. After a loud bang, Satan was sealed in the magic box. But they underestimated Satan's power. No prison can hold Satan. Lilith told everyone that a better and stronger prison was needed. Lilith told everyone that the strongest prison is human flesh and blood. This is also the most sacred bond of nature. Sabrina wanted to sacrifice herself, but was stopped by Nicholas. As the strongest sealer of the Witch Academy, Nicholas stood up. He sealed Satan into his body. In the end, to bring peace to the human world, they had to send Satan and Nicholas back to hell. Sabrina also gave the queen's crown to Lilith so that she could become the new queen of hell. Lilith helped Sabrina restore her powers. Then, Lilith sent Nicholas back to hell. But things were not over yet. Above is the content of Part 1 and Part 2. Thank you for your interest in following. Goodbye, and see you again.